Megyn Kelly is blown away as Glenn Greenwald gives a perfect analysis on Biden and all the events surrounding him, with being forced out, not running, everything, all the juicy stuff and all the drama the Democrats brought forth. So we're gonna get right into it, guys. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But first, do me a big favor here, like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you guys this great, hard-hitting content. As always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
Back at that one. Last night, he gave an interview. Well, he didn't give an interview. He's caught at the White House on camera speaking to reporters. This is from Fox News. We went back to look at the original to see what led to this moment. What was it? A question about Debbie Murphy? Somebody asked him a question about what? Oh, asked him about Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship. Okay, that was the question that preceded the outburst you will hear from Joe Biden right here. Listen.
Do you still believe he's a threat to democracy?
I think what he did was a genuine threat to democracy. By being the oldest president, I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole goddamn life.
What? Wait, what? So what's happening there, Glenn?
I'm almost hesitant to say it because, we all have this experience, I think, where somebody in our family or somebody beloved by someone close to us ends up in like the last stages of their life. They're, experiencing various forms of dementia. They go into nursing homes. You talk to any caregiver in a nursing home, and they will tell you that male patients in particular, as they get older, they start doing very inappropriate things. They lose sense of their boundaries, but also they just you can't follow a conversation any longer. And they get very grumpy at the same time, like almost aggressive. That was
Sounds
like,
familiar.
I would have been concerned for my physical safety if I had been in the vicinity of Joe Biden when he was speaking that way, because actually that dementia can make people very physically powerful.
True.
Megyn,
True.
I was going to talk about how the lies that the media told about January 6th, like Brian Sicknick being bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher, all those lies that they told. I think it's really worth pausing that if Joe Biden had been reelected, as a lot of them wanted him to do, as the Democratic Party was intending for him to be, he would have 4 more years in this state. 4 more years. He's 82. He would go to 86. He already doesn't know where he is. He has no compartmental self-control. He doesn't understand what's being said to him. And the media and Democrats have spent not just years, but even more so over the last 12 months heading into the election, vehemently insisting that Joe Biden has never been sharper, that he's smarter than everybody in the room, that he's whip smart and detailed focused. And they continue to say it.
And what's funny is when the Democrats finally eventually did admit Biden's cognitive decline, only to force him out of the race, you notice what they didn't do? They let him finish his term. Why did they kick him out of office if it was really that bad? Think about it. Just shows you how full of you-know-what the Democrats are.
Simone Sanders said it. Chuck Schumer was saying it just a few months ago. The lie that they told about Joe Biden's mental capacity when they thought they needed him to be reelected is such a foundational lie to our democracy, and so many of them were complicit in it.
Mm-hmm. And yet we had, right as we went to break, PolitiFact saying the lie of the year was Trump's, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the pets. That was the lie of the year, not Joe Biden's fine and can totally do a second term. It was, what a joke. You mentioned a couple of media defenses of Joe Biden's mental acuity. We've got some of that. Here's Simone Sanders on Meet the Press on Sunday.
I was very surprised that when you asked the question about mental acuity, he didn't more forcefully push back. The question on the table is the president all the way there? And the answer is unequivocally yes.
Democrats in November to try to tell the American people something they could see with their own eyes wasn't true.
But it's not true that the president doesn't have the mental acuity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? She was referring to Chuck Schumer there, which I'll just play too before I toss it to you, Glenn. Kristen Welker, the moderator, confronted Chuck Schumer over the many lies he told about Biden being a superhero behind the scenes. If only we could see him the way Schumer sees him. He's an Einstein, ready to do rhetorical battle with anybody at any point. Here she is confronting Schumer on it.
I want to play you a little bit of something you said last year. Take a look.
I talk to President Biden, regularly, sometimes several times in a week, or usually several times in a week. His mental acuity is great. It's fine. It's as good as it's been over the years. All this right-wing propaganda that his mental acuity has declined is wrong.
Leader Schumer, what do you say to Americans who feel as though you and other top Democrats misled them about President Biden's mental acuity?
Well, look, we didn't, and let's look at President Biden. He's had an amazing record. He's a patriot. He's a great guy. And when he stepped down, he did it on his own because he thought it was better not only for the Democratic Party, for America. We should all salute him. We should all salute him.
Do you feel, as we have this conversation today, that President Biden could serve another 4 years had he stayed in the race and potentially won?
Well, I'm not going to speculate. As I said, I think his record is a stellar one, and he'll go down in history as a really outstanding president.
So he doesn't answer. He's a great guy. He's a patriot. That does not speak to whether he has the mental acuity to do another 4 years, never mind complete the existing 4.
What's so funny about that, too, is Kristen Welker sitting there, wagging her finger, fakely so, at Chuck Schumer, saying that you and all these other top Democrats were misleading the American people by saying Biden isn't senile, which, of course, they were. She's right. But there's one key detail that we need to remember here. She was one of those top Democrats who was doing that. Kristen Welker, an NBC correspondent who is a large figurehead in the media. They were just as in on it as Chuck Schumer was. And now they're sitting there pretending like, oh, we're just the media. We're here to report the facts, blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's what you can't just trust these people, all right, guys? They're full of crap. Stop praising them. I say this because I saw some conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to call them, Trump voters at the time saying, oh, look, NBC, like they're doing honest journalism now. Look what they're saying. Oh, this is so great. They're not doing honest journalism. They never were, okay? They said it 4 years late. It doesn't count. Stop praising them. Instead, you should be saying, look what liars they are. Here's what they were saying 2 seconds ago. Now look what they're saying now, all right? They are disgusting, and we need to remember that.
Also, they're still lying. They're still lying. The idea that Joe Biden so patriotically and selflessly decided he was going to step down because it was for the good of the country, he was infuriated that they were forcing him to step down. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama were calling every day and intensifying their threats. Nancy Pelosi said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. He's enraged and bitter to this day that they forced him to leave the race. He didn't selflessly do anything, let alone decide he didn't want to run for re-election. The other part of it, though, Megyn, is there obviously have been times when the media has lied to the public about, the war in Vietnam or Iraq or Russiagate, all Hunter Biden's laptop. And those were instances where the public had no way of knowing what the truth was. They had no way of knowing that they were being lied to. The amazing thing about this case is that if you look at public polling data going back to 2020, 2021, the public knew that Joe Biden was cognitively declining. They knew he was cognitively unfit for the presidency. The media pretended over and over that it was a lie. And until the debate happened, when they couldn't hide it anymore, and they all had to pretend, oh my God, we can't believe it. It turns out Joe Biden doesn't seem like he's all there.
Exactly.
And the amazing part about that is when George Clooney wrote that op-ed that ended up being a significant catalyst to forcing Joe Biden out, which is the weird unto itself. But when George Clooney wrote that, he said when he decided that this has to happen was at that fundraiser they did where Barack Obama led him off the stage. And he said that Joe Biden was a Joe Biden I had never seen before. At the time, everybody else noticed that.
There are other reasons that it's very obvious Biden was forced out and bitter. Speaking of the thing with Obama, notice one thing that Obama and Biden very much diverged on in terms of timing. Biden, as soon as he dropped out, said, guys, I endorse Kamala Harris. Within like 30 minutes of dropping out, he put out a glowing endorsement of her, said she is the candidate of choice. But notice who was quiet after that, namely Barack Obama. He didn't say anything for about at least 2 days. It might have even been 3 days. It's very obvious why Barry was quiet about this. It's because he was upset Joe had endorsed Kamala, and he wanted to see if there was somebody else they could put up. Barack Obama, he may be an asshole. We don't like him, but one thing is for sure, he is a very smart and sophisticated politician. Obama knew Kamala Harris sucked. She got 0% in California, that was her own state, by the way, in the 2020 election, and dropped out before it even happened because she was so bad. Barack Obama knew she probably wasn't going to have a chance against Trump, and that is why he was quiet for so long. Long story short, I think Biden got his ultimate revenge on the Democrat Party by endorsing Kamala. You don't want me? Fine, Jack. You get Kamala. And then what did Biden do? He put on a MAGA hat a week later. Coincidence? I think not.
They said, look, Joe Biden doesn't even know where he is. Obama has to walk him off the stage. the Washington Post, the New York Times, in conjunction with the White House, collaborated to say this was disinformation, right-wing cheap fakes. In other words, they were showing the correct video but lying about it. And then George Clooney comes out and says, yeah, at that event, he wasn't there. And none of these media outlets have remotely accounted for what it is that they did.
No. And by the way, Kristen Welker.
Well, hope you guys enjoyed that. What'd you all think? You know, what do you think? Do you think Biden was forced out? But, you know, was it a coincidence? I want to know. Comment below, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks for tuning in, and God bless.